We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we kind of at a stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's been the victim,
right,
or the man has been the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business, I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of the
not no.
Let's go to the last part.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Nah, you don't need to register nothing. You don't need, we can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
They believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploiting the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Money is something we all deal with, but how many of us truly understand it? What if you could make better decisions with your money? Decisions that secure your future, protect your family, and bring you peace of mind. I'm Darren Jacobs, and I'm here to help you make sense of your dollars. Welcome to Dollars and Cents, the show that breaks down the financial world in ways that matter to you. No jargon, no confusion, just real conversations about money, your money. So join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on WESN for Dollars and Cents. Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
My name is Dr. Stephen Carroll.
the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private healthcare affordable.
For all your medical needs, including dental, radiology, laparoscopy, behavioral and mental health, along with many other services, contact us for more information at 235-5479.
Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Appreciate you starting your day with us. Let's get into this morning's first conversation.
Is the country's healthcare system more at risk more than ever?
Why it has remained unaddressed for so long.
Political parties get lots of cash, big cash from financiers, and then when they get that now, you can't account for it.
But it's really the specialist nurses who we are in a greater shortfall for.
We can tap into the resources and have them, at least form some mentorship programs.
Highlight our food systems, and which will attract persons from all over the world to come and experience something that actually supports the local economy.
We're lucky that we have a vibrant legal system that allows change to take place, and it's not that matters are just swept under the carpet and discrimination is allowed to be perpetrated.
A lot of people don't know that there were attempts to ban the carnival, suppress the carnival.
WESN.
Good morning and welcome to AM Prime on WESN. I am Naomi Macnish.
And I am Jada McLeod.
So this morning we are going to do some updates with you guys. What's happening around the world and what's some local.
Yeah, what's happening in local as well. But before we go into what's happening around the world, what's happening? Hey, how are you doing today, Naomi?
I am doing okay. I feel good this morning. Obviously, doing this every day can get very tiring, but as much as you love what you do, it won't be a problem. So I won't complain.
I mean, I know you were coming from further than me, but what about the rain? Like, how does that impact?
The rain has been so hard. Yes. Just because, let's be real, when it's raining, nobody wants to get out of their bed.
I was thinking that just coming out.
This morning was especially hard because it was raining this morning, and I was just thinking, can I stay here? Can I just,
No, yeah, I felt it too. And I'm sure even our director and producer, everybody felt it as well, and everybody just on their way to the studio. We wish them safe travels. We wish that you get off your bed on time and you come to studio as well. And for all of you that are maybe listening to us, maybe on the roads, or you're just entering the office, or you're working from home, good morning to you. And I hope that you get to enjoy the rain a little bit. Yeah. Or maybe you did enjoy that last night, but you had to like push yourself to get off the bed.
Yeah.
Got it. I got it.
I don't mind though if the rain stops for the rest of the day.
And it starts back at like 9 o'clock.
I would love that. I can do with some sun today.
Yeah, no, for real, because it has been quite
Gloomy.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I tend to like gloomy weather, but not when I have responsibilities.
But no, exactly. I have things to do. I can't, yeah. So the sun needs to come out today, hopefully. So we're going to jump into our first news update. This is an international one. So in the UK, Britain has unveiled its most ambitious nuclear energy push in nearly 3 decades, backing a £14.2 billion investment in the Sizewell C plant on England's Suffolk coast. This is set to power 6 million homes and create 10,000 jobs.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we have a video, so we're going to take a look at that now.
Now here, the Prime Minister says the government's decision to invest £14.2 billion in a nuclear site in Suffolk will provide energy security, bring down bills and create 10,000 jobs for a decade. But opponents say he's not being clear about the final costs. Here's our business editor, Simon Jack.
Nuclear energy has been produced here in Sizewell for nearly 60 years. Today, the Chancellor will confirm she's setting aside money to build a new generation of reactors to generate energy for decades to come. The plan is to take the design under construction at Hinkley Point in Somerset and replicate it on the Suffolk coast, ushering in what the government describes as a golden age of nuclear to boost the UK's energy security. Sizewell C's construction, it says, will create 10,000 direct jobs and once complete will produce enough energy to power 6 million homes. The government has earmarked £14.2 billion towards the cost over the next 4 years.
The Prime Minister said it would create well-paid careers for the students at this Ipswich college, but he's committed to a project that will cost tens of billions of pounds and take at least a decade, leading some to ask whether he's written a blank cheque on behalf of taxpayers and energy customers.
We're not writing a blank cheque, we're setting out exactly the investment we're making. This is about investment. It carries with it 10 years' worth of jobs for 10,000 people, and what it carries with it is our own energy independence, security, and bringing down the bills for millions of people across the country.
The total budget is expected to be around £40 billion. One reason, but not the only one, objectors say this will prove to be a costly mistake.
There is £14.2 billion of taxpayers' funding, and that's a decision we condemn and firmly believe the government will come to regret. We don't see the benefit for voters in ploughing more money into Sizewell C that could be spent on other priorities, and when the project will add to consumer bills during construction and is guaranteed to be late and overspent just like Hinkley Point C.
Nuclear energy has been produced on this coast since the late 1960s. Nuclear as a whole contributed 15% of the UK's electricity needs last year. But in a few years' time, that will be the last functioning nuclear power station in Britain. The government's convinced it needs a new generation to produce domestic, low-carbon, always-on energy as part of the future energy mix. This government is not the first to declare a golden age for nuclear, and it'll be over a decade before the electricity produced is there at the flick of a switch.
Yeah, so that honestly marks a major turning point in Britain for the energy sector. I found it really interesting. The impact it would have, or the impact it's intended to have on Britain's economy.
I know that we heard that there was some pushback towards it because people were concerned that it would be a costly mistake. I mean, it is quite an investment.
Yeah.
Quite an investment.
£14.2 billion.
That's a lot, yeah. It's quite an investment. Some people were saying maybe a waste of taxpayers' money. But I mean, it depends on how it's handled, right?
I'm seeing, so I have a, that £14.2 billion is adding to a prior £3.7 billion for the project. So they had already spent £3.7 billion on a project, and then they remade it to complete the project, because now they're committing to this, is an additional £14.2 billion. Which is, I guess, where people are getting concerned about the cost, or where is the money coming from, and so forth.
I mean, the Britain is a pretty endowed country financially.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, they wouldn't do it if they couldn't afford it. I don't think they have to do any sort of borrowing for a project like this. But with a project this size, I mean, it is important that they switch over from fossil fuels to some sort of cleaner energy. For a country as big as with as much influence as Britain, a lot of smaller countries like ours can learn from them. I don't think we have enough to 14.7 billion pounds to do that here in Trinidad.
No, we can't.
But we can take from them the investment, you know.
Yeah,
the
and then it's
thinking.
also about like the Prime Minister Keir Starmer was saying that having their own energy, it gives them stability, security, and they're able to control the price. You know, so
that's exactly where my mind went. Controlling the price, it gives them leverage. It gives
Yeah.
them huge leverage. I mean, it's
and what economy or what government does not want that for their country? You know, when we had our own oil and gas and we were producing for the Caribbean, I mean,
we were able the Caribbean's Mecca.
We were able to control price.
Yeah,
and
to
that's
to
power.
best price of people. Yeah,
that's power.
And what I'm thinking about now is that we're at a turn of a century, or the turn of, I guess, an industrial century, industrial era, where things are changing. There's more investment, and I of course have to name AI. There's more investments into things like that. There's investments into things like clean energy sources. I know we did a show where we spoke about the commitment to not necessarily nuclear energy, but cleaner energy. Nuclear energy is quite expensive to start up, but it runs for itself. So it's able to generate, as I'm seeing here, able to generate nearly half of most nations' emissions-free electricity, which is the equivalent of removing 100 million cars off of the road.
Yeah.
It's sustainable in the long term. It's just expensive to start up. So we can understand why there's a bit of pushback. But I think if a country like Britain, if a country like, I mean, I don't know if it's Great Britain, the UK, who's in Britain, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, all of them could come together, and it's a pretty hefty call, but they can afford it.
And also, I think the most expensive part would be
the building.
The building itself, just that initial cost, what the 10 of billion to, you know, just get the infrastructure up and running, because Ed Miliband, who is the Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change in the United Kingdom, he says nuclear is cornerstone of net zero. So this is why it's able to tackle energy security on the whole for the country. And yeah, so, and Rolls-Royce chosen to build SMRs powering 3 million homes.
Rolls-Royce the brand?
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I'll get some more information on that.
Okay. So where I wanted to carry the conversation with this is what this means for a country like Trinidad and Tobago, ours right here. We are at a crossroads ourselves, trying to find some other form of energy. Now, we are committed to fossil fuels. We know oil and gas here in Trinidad and Tobago. That's what we're accustomed to. That's what we grew up on. But that's where we need to move away from. Right now, as I was saying before, we are at a turn of a century, an industrial century, where we have to, there's more of an interest in putting in an investment into cleaner energy sources. We can't continue to go down the roads of using fossil fuels and teaching that to the next generation. In fact, the next generation, my generation, we're calling on the change from older energy sources to cleaner energy sources. So how difficult do you think it would be for us to invest in nuclear energy here in Trinidad and Tobago? What would a reactor industry, what would that look like for us?
That's, I don't know. I feel like, I don't think we are anywhere near that being a possibility.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we can barely, oh gosh, like, the word is not coming to me, sorry. We could barely understand and roll out AI properly. So something like nuclear energy, I don't think that's happening anytime soon,
I feel like it will take some time, but we do need to sort of jump on that as soon as possible?
We need to jump on a lot of things, you know. But again, if we don't have a vision for the country, then
I mean,
it's not going to happen.
You're passing down by, like, to the point is as industrial estates or some sort of industrial estate, and you're just seeing this large. I don't know why I'm seeing like a scientific energy, you know, like those energy volts are just going to go from one end to the other, and I'm just seeing the actual. I don't know why I'm seeing that when I think of nuclear energy. I'm just seeing them into like a science project. Imagine you're just flying down the highway and you're seeing that, and you're like, yes, my country is committed to clean energy. I feel like that's the future I want to live in.
It is, and it would do, our country would do great on that, but is it going to happen? Probably not.
It will happen in my lifetime. It will happen in my lifetime. No, because we do need to see a push towards, I mean, we are seeing it, you know, certain companies, as I'm reading here within the Caribbean, certain companies are committed to changing from fossil fuels. So we're seeing a push from BP, we're seeing a push from Shell, many others. Also, we have a push towards solar, is what I'm seeing here, more so than anything.
Yes.
I think my dad and I, we were having a conversation about that sometime, and we were thinking about how, because to me, when I think of solar energy, I think, how are we going to harness, and I know it's probably a very naive question, but how are we going to harness the sun's energy to power everything we need to do? Mm-hmm. I found out just an interesting question. I don't know if anybody's listening that, you know, maybe more of an expert in that or interested in that, but I think that would be an interesting conversation for us to have.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, we see various aspects of our economy trying to kind of harness natural energy, natural gas. And another example locally was the project with using the sargassum seaweed. Mm-hmm. And that is something that, well, I've been trying so hard to get an interview with somebody from that sargassum project. Mm-hmm. We're reaching out to them, not getting through, but we'll keep trying.
Yes.
And that is just one way in which we are doing our part to use what we have in the environment, to use what nature gives us to create this natural type of renewable natural gas or, to power our everyday items, cars, your homes. So I think we can, that kind of jumps straight into
where we're going next. One question I wanted to ask before we go, and I want viewers to keep this on your mind. Whatever happened to the Brechin Castle solar project that we were investing in? I know that we had the park set to be completed last year. Well, let's say sometime. Well, yeah, last year and this year, sometime between that. Are we still working on that? So just putting that question out there. Maybe that's something that we could look into. But yes, I know that we wanted to jump straight into the next update with the sargassum. I just learned that word, guys. I'm so sorry. I was like, I know what algae is, I know what seaweed is, but sargassum is the...
It's a specific type of seaweed, and this is the seaweed that we see on our beaches at certain times of the year. Like especially on the East Coast, when you go like Mayaro, Toko, you see this is the brown, smelly, thick, heavy seaweed that washes up on our shores. Mm-hmm. It's disgusting. Mm-hmm. I hate going to the beach and seeing that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so this is a massive bloom of sargassum seaweed, a record 38 million tons, has washed ashore across the Caribbean, unleashing foul smells and threatening the region's beach holiday season. Because like I said, when you go to the beach and see this, you do not want to swim. Even if you go to swim, the seaweed it's itchy, it's thick on your skin. It's really disgusting, and I know a lot of you know what I'm talking about.
And as if you can get past the smell.
Yeah.
You can't even drive sometimes.
And then things get caught in the seaweed, like dead wildlife, right? So let's take a look at this video so we can discuss.
You thinking crystal clear waters, perfect white sand beaches, the salty smell of a sea breeze. God, take me there. Let's go. Well, maybe not there. Maybe not exactly there. Because it's all going to look maybe quite a bit different this year, thanks to the biggest ever buildup, the worst it's ever been, of sargassum, this brown seaweed in the Caribbean. It is smashing records this summer. It is prickly, it is slimy, it is smelly, it is blanketing beaches, it is bad for tourism. Not to mention, it's basically suffocating the ocean there. It kills wildlife, it releases toxic gases. Are you getting the, like, this is not a pretty picture. The area we're talking about is huge. Look at all this. It stretches all the way from Mexico's east coast to Puerto Rico, down to the northern coast of South America, some of it even all the way up to the beaches of Florida. I want to bring in NBC News meteorologist Chase Kane, who's got more on this. Sargassum is a thing that happens fairly frequently, right? Like, it is not unfamiliar if you like to vacation in the Caribbean. But this year, it is worse than it has been. Is that because of climate change? What's behind this?
Well, Hallie, first of all, I don't know if you've ever smelled this in person, but if you haven't, gross, stinky, those are an understatement. And yeah, climate change is really the working theory for scientists and researchers because they've only been tracking this with a lot of detail since 2011. So the thought is that because our oceans are record hot, our air is record hot, that's just essentially fuel, food for this seaweed, which is really a type of brown algae, to grow much bigger than ever. And then you throw in some shifting wind patterns and you get these huge patches moving toward shore. Now, this sargassum is not always bad when it's out to sea. It is actually a natural habitat for fish and for birds. But, as you're seeing in these images and video, when it gets close to the coast, when it washes up on shore, it is a problem for people. It is a problem for wildlife. There are impacts to human health. I mean, it can irritate your skin if you were to actually, get into it and try and swim through it. If you inhale it, there's some toxic gas that's being released from this because it's conducting its own form of photosynthesis, releasing gases as it decays there on shore. It can also interfere with fisheries, especially with fishermen that are trying to go out right from the shore and catch things close to the coast. They say this is giving them a real big headache, Hallie.
Well, to your point, economically, I mean, it could really hurt some of these beach towns, these coastal towns on the Caribbean Sea that rely on an influx of tourists at times like spring break, but especially at times like the summer break too.
Yeah, I mean, you show up to the beach, like you said in the intro, like you show up to the beach, you want the nice white sandy beaches and the crystal clear water where you can go scuba diving. People who depend upon the water to make a livelihood, to go out and fish, this is also impacting their way of life.
So seeing the previous record I was reading was set in June 2022 with 22 million tons, and they say that the peaks just seem to be getting bigger and bigger each year. But of course, they don't know really why yet. They attribute it to climate change, or they allude to the fact that there may be climate change. But I mean, it's $1 million question. We really don't know for exactly why.
Yeah.
So the three different types of sargassum. I don't know why I can't say that word correctly. Sargassum exist in the Caribbean and nearby areas, reproducing asexually as they remain afloat thanks to tiny air sacs, which to me is pretty interesting. It's almost like they're building off of each other, like they release air and they're building, and then they get bigger and bigger. And then I think you saw that picture on the beach there. It's a huge, it looks like huge brown sludge.
It creates a bedding on the shore. It's, oh my gosh, it's awful.
It really is, and I didn't know how bad it was, but I was recently in Tobago, let's say 3 weeks ago, and my dad, we couldn't go into the water because he was taking me somewhere, along some shoreline, and all we were seeing, not even that, you smelled it before you saw it. I was like, what's that smell? Tobago doesn't smell like this. What's that smell? And then he said, oh, look where we're going now. And I was like, why are you taking me here? Look where we're going now. And then all I saw was just huge heaps. I'm talking huge heaps of just brown. I thought it was sludge, or another word that I don't think I could see on air. It just looked horrible. Yeah. Absolutely horrible. And then you got into the mix of it, like right in the crux of it, you got the real punch. Yeah. The real smelly punch.
And that's because it emits this hydrogen sulfide, which smells like rotting eggs and
fish and trash and just
and this is something that can cause medical issues. It can irritate your skin. It can cause reproductive issues in men and women. It can cause breathing issues as well, and I don't think that's just because of the smell or whatever chemicals it is that is being released, it's not good for us to inhale. And
so they thrive in different ways depending on sunlight, depending on nutrients and water temperature. Of course, these factors are things that scientists are still studying. Some people who study these things, experts, have also said that agricultural runoff, warming waters, and changes in wind, current, and rain can have an effect. I mean, I'm not too sure, I don't know if the figures are out as yet, but what this rainy season, 2025, looks like in comparison to previous rainy seasons, I have a feeling that we will see a spike in maybe rainfall, or what's the word I'm looking for? The intensity with which the rain falls. I know that there's a word there, but I'm not a meteorologist. I mean, I know it off the cuff of my head. So somebody was saying that the seaweed or the sargassum can block sunlight that coral reefs need to survive. And if the algae sinks, it can smother reefs and seagrasses. So once it reaches the shore, the creatures living in the algae die, or they're picked off by birds because they're essentially trapped. So their wings, they're not wings, but like fins or whatever. It's snug inside the algae and they can't wiggle through. So they're just getting picked off by birds for a very slow and horrible death, which is not something that we want to celebrate, because all that's going to be left behind would be fish carcasses, which it's going to make it even smellier, even more disgusting, and it will be a turn-off for tourism as well.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing that they, where is this essentially? It's going from the coast of Martinique, Puerto Rico, all the way from Puerto Rico to Guyana. And I'm as I said before, I did see it a lot in Tobago. I'm not too sure about beaches in Trinidad if it's as bad here, but I know in Tobago it can get really, really bad.
no, I think it's pretty bad here as well, but like I said earlier, especially on our East Coast, you see it a lot. You don't really see it on our northern coast. I have not really noticed, but I'm pretty sure it's there as well. But it is something that for many years, and different times of the year especially, I think I've seen it most around Easter. So to have it coming back now, it's really interesting.
Because it usually happens in May, and sometimes maybe in June it may elongate itself into June. But for it to happen right there in April, earlier, all of these little changes that we think, oh, it's just, Mother Nature doing her thing. It's not.
Yeah.
Mother Nature is suffering. She's crying out for help. And there is an argument for this being an effect of climate change.
Yes, that's one of the reasons scientists say that this is happening. And there's actually, for some time now, because sargassum is nothing new, especially not just to the Caribbean, but for Trinidad and Tobago, local scientists have found, they've been working to try and, mitigate the seaweed. And because we can't, honestly, we can't stop it from washing up on our shores, but we can find ways to use it and clear up our beaches, because you can clear up the beaches, but where are you going to put the seaweed? Right? It's going to go in a pile somewhere else. So they try to find ways to use that seaweed in order to get rid of it, right? So we, Trinbagonian scientist, Dr. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, Legina, or Henry, Legena, Henry, she started working on a project using the sargassum seaweed to power vehicles, right? And she launched the world's first vehicle powered by renewable natural gas derived from a blend of sargassum, seaweed, and rum distillery wastewater. This would have tackled several global challenges all at the same time. These challenges include providing renewable energy, creating inexpensive transportation fuel, ridding beaches of sargassum, and converting waste into valuable resources. This article was over a year ago, so I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything recently as to whether this is something that is still happening. If these vehicles that she was able to power are still functioning.
Well,
so this is something that we could
look into, yeah. But she would be seeing that she's been in this field for quite some time. She's the CEO and founder of Rum and Sargassum Incorporated. Wonderful name, might I add. A transportation biofuel company in Barbados. So she's essentially using, that's really interesting, natural resources from the Caribbean, Sargassum, rum.
Yeah.
And using it. And okay, this is really interesting. I didn't realize that this is something that we could even do. How did she discover that this was possible?
Yes.
She's researches sustainable energy sources in the Caribbean, such as biofuel from sargassum seaweed, ocean thermal energy conversion, and wave energy. She recently published an IDB technical note called The Experimental Evidence on the Use of Biomethane from Rum Distillery Waste and Sargassum Seaweed as an Alternative Fuel for Transportation in Barbados. This is a very creative transportation solution. I really like this. I want to look more into how this works. I mean, how do you break it down to become energy? Because what it is it's energy that's fueling the car. So how do you break it down to become energy? I'm sure that there's some science things there that I could probably try and understand, but I prefer to have her on the show so she could speak to it, because that's really interesting. So she launched the world's first vehicle powered by rum and sargassum, rum and seaweed, guys. Wow.
It said the wastewater from distilling rum. So I guess
what properties are in that leftover rum water?
Well, that's the kind of questions that we have to ask. So hopefully, like I said, I've been trying for some time now to get in contact with Dr. Henry so that we can have that discussion, but haven't been successful just yet. But we will keep trying, because these are questions that we would love to get answered and understand how is this being turned into renewable energy to sustain a vehicle.
And how can it scale?
Is something exactly, and I also want to know, are there vehicles on our roads today that are being powered by sargassum?
Can't go to NP for that.
No. So that's what we want to know. So how is it being continued?
Yeah.
What is the is it really that sustainable for an everyday person who's driving, who needs to go from point A to point B, or even point A to Z?
And how does the fuel last? How long would it last? How many miles would it give you on the road? Can you go from Chagonas to Point Fortin? Can you go from Port of Spain to Point Lisas? How many miles was that sort of energy give you? So all these are really interesting questions that we can possibly ask. And of course, if you have any questions that you would like to contribute to the conversation, let us know right now, and we'll always save it up to ask her when we get her on the show, because we will get her on the show. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing here Dr. Henry, she partnered with educational institutions, Tobago Hospitality and Tourism Institute, the Tobago House of Assembly, and the private sector civil net. So they're using this as well to as a potential for Tobago as an innovative solution to, sorry, I'm just going to read what it says. Recognizing the alignment between this far-sighted vision and Tobago's need for innovative solutions to our early development. And these efforts were made to work with Dr. Henry as a collaborative effort. So it says, however, despite initial momentum, the project did not reach its potential, leaving only a local private company in Tobago working directly with the Barbados entity, which is the Dr. Henry's group or her company, Rum and Sargassum. Yeah, so I think Tobago tried to get this up and running there, but it seems that it hasn't worked. So these are also questions that we want to get answered.
All right. So I found Naomi would have found a video regarding Stokely Carmichael, also known as Kwame Ture. So I think when I was first introduced to him, it's properly learning about who he was. We had one of the founders from the Pan-Africanism movement coming on to the show and telling us about Trinidadians, and specifically Trinidadians who would have contributed to the Pan-African movement. Of course, we know we have the Kwame Ture, what do you call it, center. I believe it's right on the cusp of the Eastern Main Road there. We have those centers, and we have a recognition of who he is, but there's been recent calls to rename Oxford Street the Kwame Ture. Kwame Ture Street, which I think is very fitting. So if we can play a video on that now.
Stokely Carmichael, famously known as Kwame Ture, was born in Trinidad on June 29, 1941. He was the leader of the black nationalism in the U.S. and the originator of the rally slogan, Black Power. Ture was one among several freedom writers who traveled through the South in the 1960s. His fight was for racial equity and reparatory justice. In honor of his legacy, the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago is suggesting what they believe is a fitting tribute.
Has spent many, many years calling for the change of the street name on which Kwame Ture was born and lived before he became that amazing icon in North America. And that's Oxford Street. And we have recommended to the powers that be for many, so many years that I can no longer remember when we began that struggle. We've suggested to them that they change the name to Kwame Ture Street in honor of him.
ICNTT Director Dr. Asha Kambon said Kwame Ture's efforts in his fight for reparatory justice during the times of the civil and Pan-African movements should not be overlooked, but commemorated.
In 1959, Kwame was on a bus leaving the university, Howard University, where he was being educated, to head down to the South to help people register to vote. And he faced jail and so on to do that.
This year's Kwame Ture Memorial Lecture Series will feature panel discussions all under the scope of shaping sustainable futures through reparatory justice.
So this year the focus will be decolonizing the mind, the relevance of Fanon in the modern Caribbean. And that's important to us because, of course, this is the 100th birthday anniversary of Frantz Fanon. And Frantz Fanon is just the most amazing thinker that we've had in the movement for decolonization.
The lecture series will be held at the National Academy of the Performing Arts, NAPA, from June 15th.
Bare minimum. I'm sorry. Bare minimum that you can do. I don't know why we have to have so many calls. Let's do this. No, do it. It's pretty easy. I think it's a pretty easy process to go ahead and do. He was born on Oxford Street. He's done a lot for the country, represented the country well. He represented the world well. Why is it such a... is it because we're stuck in a colonial mindset?
It has to be. I think... but the thing is, we right now, this is only... I think this is only now happening where we're trying to... we're becoming a lot more patriotic, and things in our history that we would have learned a lot of the colonial kind of Western, part of our history, and not so much the roots, the people like I've never heard of Kwame Ture, unfortunately, before hearing it from
Emancipation Support Committee. Likewise, and I pass that center every single day. I should know more about him.
Which just shows us that we have to start learning more from our history and this aspect of it. The people that fought for our rights, the people that brought us out of that colonial era. And it's people like Kwame Ture,
what I find interesting, as you were saying, that it may be because we're still in a colonial mindset. Let's carry back to what was happening with the dollar, the coat of arms on the dollar. When the video was playing, you was having a bit of a discussion that it was that replaying itself all over again.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of the discussions kind of stem from too, as I was saying, because there's a mix of emotions there was a mix of emotions surrounding changing or adding the steel pan on the coat of arms. And this is because I think change is a bit worrying, and because we have known for so long, we have learned about these 3 ships, and it being, it being a part of the start of our country itself, Removing that now is like, why are we not acknowledging it anymore? Why are we not, that is a part of who we are. But then there's the other side of the argument that, no, that's wrong. And we have learned that for so long, but changing that now is, you have to change the culture and mindset, and that's difficult because we have grown up, every generation has grown up learning about these 3 ships.
But it's also adding on culture. It's not necessarily the change of culture, it's an expansion of culture.
Well, remember, it was removed. The 3 ships were removed. So it gives the emotions a sense of, because it's being removed, it's no longer part of who we are. It's almost like you're ripping away something, and this is something that we grew up learning about. It was part of who we are as a country, but now that it's not there, it could, mentally it's like, so what now?
So to the persons who think like this, that it is it's a change in culture, you're doing away with culture, I challenge you to ask yourselves, wouldn't it be better that we represent something that has given to us as much as that has given back to us? Kwame Ture is somebody that has, we can go into his list of accomplishments, but he is somebody that deserves more than a street name. So that's why I said it's the bare minimum.
No, actually, I'm seeing here, so the Emancipation Support Committee, with the backing at a public consultation on statutes and signage, is renewing the call for renaming. The suggestion includes renaming either Oxford Street or even the capital itself. So it's not just out, they're calling for either one, either to rename Oxford Street after Kwame Ture, or to rename Port of Spain after Kwame Ture, to honor local and Pan-African heroes.
Okay. I personally don't have too much of an issue with something like that. No, go ahead.
No, well, I think I don't see an issue with renaming Oxford Street after Kwame Ture. It's a street. He was born in that street. He was born on number 54 Oxford Street. That's, but Port of Spain, Port of Spain is it's Port of Spain. You can't.
I don't know how I feel about it because
you
part
can't
of
change
me,
Port of Spain.
Yeah, a part of me is going. Of course, you can't change Port of Spain. It's a capital city, so we all know, everybody knows it's Port of Spain, Trinidad. But a part of me cannot get rid of the fact that it's almost like malicious. It's malicious. It's a malicious bias in me. That I want to rename Kwame Ture because it's why not? Give him his flowers, as we as Generation Z like to say. Give him his accolades. Why not give such a big gesture, send such a big gesture his way, his family's way? Why not do that? So there's a part of me that's reluctant to give up. Maybe it's a common sense that we should just keep Port of Spain as Port of Spain. But part of me is reluctant to say that's not a change that we should have.
Yeah. We cannot be afraid of change. Change is what's gonna help us to evolve as a nation. And a lot of what we have now came from this colonial mindset from years ago, and now we are learning to step into our own identity and as a country.
I so want to do away with the colonial mindset. That to me, it's almost like a sense of justice. Yes, put the Pan-African movement towards the helm of culture in Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, of course, it's not the only culture that we have, but it's something that it hasn't been celebrated as much as, and I'll be honest, I've seen other cultures be celebrated. So we can put that towards the helm of culture and do away with the colonial mindset. It's not that, you know, it got us this far, but if we want change, the same change that we call for, it starts from a mindset of the individual person. Culture changes from an individual person. So think about it a little bit. Maybe not renaming the whole entirety of Spain, Kwame Ture, what would you say, Kwame Ture City? Why not? I mean, anyway, maybe not Kwame Ture City, but definitely renaming Oxford Street. And maybe they called for something as big as renaming Port of Spain, so that renaming Oxford Street would seem like a small ask. But to be honest, we could probably settle on something as a little bit of a middle point, because just renaming one street I don't think is enough to honor his legacy. But renaming Port of Spain might be too big of a beast to fight off right now.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing here, and again, in order to get everybody to come together in agreement about this Kwame Ture change name, we have to understand who he is. And I think if we hear more about who he is and his story, we might, you know, quicker adjust our mindset and want the change. But because I would love somebody to create a documentary on him. You know,
as I'm reading here, yeah. He was a key leader in the development of the Black Power movement, leading the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee as the honorary Prime Minister of the Black Panther Party, and last as a leader of the All African People's Revolutionary Party. He became a major voting rights activist because he would have grown up in the U.S., Mississippi, and Alabama after being mentored by Ella Baker and Bob Moses himself. He was very young. He became disillusioned with the two-party system, and he failed to recognize the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party as the official delegate from the state. So he decided to develop an independent all-black political organization, such as the Lowndes County Freedom Organization and the National Black Panther Party. Inspired by Malcolm X, he articulated the philosophy of black power and popularized it both by provocative speeches and sober writings.
Based on that and some information that I have in front of me as well, he did, it would seem as though, and I could be wrong, but it would seem as though he did a lot more for the United States than Trinidad. I think we are just proud of him. Well,
yes, but what happens in the U.S. does trickle down quite a bit. That would have affected how we viewed the Pan-African movement.
Because if this might be a controversial statement, so don't come for me, but in Trinidad, we tend to, we like to, we're proud people, and we love to claim anybody that does anything great internationally from Trinidad. We like to claim that, right? And nothing is wrong with that. That's part of, you know, national pride. But, you know, he did so much. He did a lot of what he spent majority of his years, like even the article that I have up in front of me, he's known as an American activist, right? He's not a Trinidadian activist. He's Trinidadian born. He left Trinidad when he was 11, so that's in his early years, and he spent his entire life in the United States.
So in that, is that why people are saying, well, no, don't rename Oxford Street after him?
I think that can be part of the discussion as to why there are people opposing to the idea of doing
Oxford
this.
Oxford is British. Oxford is British. Yeah. Why wouldn't you want to rename it to somebody who's
But you see why it's important to have context and why it's important to know the story and understand who he is, because in order for us to make a decision, we have to have the full story.
Yeah, I still call for Kwame Ture Street though. No, because I do think there's an argument to be made that it's almost like he went and he did it in a big way so that it could trickle down to Trinidad.
Well, that's the part that we have to know as well. So we have to see where the changes were made and what aspect of what he did for the United States also helped us. How did it help us? You know, and I am open to more conversation, healthy conversation or debate even surrounding this, and to decide whether or not Oxford Street should be renamed Kwame Ture.
Yes, so if somebody can come on, Naomi will play against, I will play for, and we'll have a healthy debate. I don't want to be
against. I'm just, my point is just, it doesn't even have to be on this show. Mm-hmm. You know, it could, but I want to see this and understand, you know, should it or should it not change?
And I think that's a great place for us to end our updates because it is Wild Wednesday.
I almost forgot.
Yes, I'm hearing Mr. Mead in the lobby. I don't know what animal he's bringing for us today.
Actually, Mr. Mead is joining us this morning via Zoom.
So I feel like I was hearing his voice. Maybe he's in the Zoom.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so great. That actually works out well for me because you guys know that when it comes to the animals being in studio, I can be very about it. So I'm not saying that because next week he's going to come in person, he's going to bring an animal for me. That I'm going to be freaked out by.
Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will have Mr. Mead with us. So stay tuned.
Feeling drained? Struggling to keep up? It's time to take control of your wellness. On this episode of Wellness Unlocked, we're diving into the key nutrients your body needs for all-day energy and balance. With 100% or more of your daily essential vitamins, plus added chromium to support healthy blood sugar, this is complete wellness in a single soft gel. Join us as we uncover how small changes can make a big impact on your health. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and take the first step toward better health.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios, but they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
I am Dr. Delphina Ovid, your friendly neighborhood dentist. At Community Hospital Dental Clinic, we offer examinations which include x-rays, basic oral cancer screening, and a treatment plan. We also offer cleanings, fillings, extractions, root canal treatment, and complete and partial dentures. Remember, you don't have to brush and floss all your teeth, just the ones you want to keep.
Give us a call at 235-5479.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm not to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of the game.
no.
Let's go to the last part.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up, Doc isn't just a title, it's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
Welcome back to the program this morning. So,
today is Wild Wednesday. I have to say, I really like that.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Jungle vibes.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
So, as always, we have Mr. Ricardo Mead from the El Socorro Wildlife Center here with us on the program. He has joined via Zoom, always making it happen. Good morning, Mr. Mead.
Good morning, ladies, and good morning to our listeners and followers out there. Good morning to everyone.
El Socorro Center, because I'm reading what's on his sheet, El Socorro Center for Wildlife. I thought he would come out and he would be like, it's El Socorro Center for Wildlife Conservation. Essentially that.
Yeah. The El Socorro Center for Wildlife Conservation. Nice.
Good morning, Mr. Mead.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic, really busy, really busy. The school's got me hopping from career day to science fair to career day. So we're all over the country this week.
Yeah, but thanks so much for still joining us.
Taking me time. Yes.
Always. We do our best.
So what do we have? What animal are we highlighting this morning?
Well, I didn't even think that you would have wanted me on the program this morning for Wild Wednesday after all the wildness on social media yesterday and the savagery. You know, it makes my animals look domesticated.
Oh boy.
No, for real.
You know,
let's get into that. Yeah.
But we got a little guy that we call Savannah, and normally when you rescue an animal, we name it from the location where it was rescued or the rescuer. But we named this guy because we know where we're going to put him. Guess where we're putting him?
In the savannah.
Is it a squirrel?
In the savannah grass. Yes, indeed. His name is what? What was that? Yes?
Savannah. Oh, she asked if it's a squirrel.
Yes, it is a squirrel. It is our local red squirrel, and it will be in the savannah. So when you go there for your nightly treats and snacks, well, you won't see him then. He'll be sleeping. But if you do venture out in the day in the hot sun and run around the savannah and sit under the trees, he'll probably come up to you and ask for a little snack or something like that there. So it is our local squirrel. It's the only type of squirrel that we have in Trinidad and Tobago, and our intention is to put him in the savannah. And the reason for this is that we had gotten a couple squirrels from the savannah before. After a bad weather incident, they fell to the ground and could not be rehomed. But one of them was injured and he subsequently passed. So it was sad because so many people calling and asking about him there, and oh my gosh, you're gonna have less squirrels in the savannah. So this young guy here, whose area he came from, they do not want him to come back in that area, lest someone decides to terminate his existence. So we've decided to find, and as we always do, put them back where they came from, or find other suitable homes for the animals where they can prosper. And the squirrels in the savannah, if you've ever noticed, are prospering and doing quite well. So lots of trees, lots of spaces to run, and apparently lots of food to eat. So this guy is going to be going to the savannah with his name, Savannah. All right, you guys want to see him?
Yes, please.
Let me see. I am gonna have to go and run around and catch him. You know, he's quite a brisk little guy. I'm just kidding. He's in a cage here, and he's sort of snuggled up there. He's like, the morning is a bit cool, so he doesn't want to run around the way he normally does. He's sitting more curled up than he would normally be, but he's very young still, so he's probably got another 3 weeks or so possibly before we put him out. Well, let me see. I'm also hoping that he doesn't bite me. That's one thing we always tell people. Squirrels bite. Squirrels fang and do bite. So here we go. Here's this little guy here. Come on, guy.
Savannah. Oh my goodness.
With his little grandson, so he's doing. Come on, I gotta be
very
careful.
tiny.
Yes. Oh my gosh, relax a bit there. There we go. Yes. So, right, there we go. There you go. That's the shot we need. That's the shot. That's the money shot right there. Looking at the screen. Yeah, so this guy here is also very hungry. So I'm hoping he doesn't smell my breakfast on my hands and want to know if I have any for him. See, there is a little nibble. Right now it's a little nibble. It's okay. But squirrels are rodents.
Yes,
okay,
they are.
rat family. Rodentia. So what that means is, one, they don't like to sit still at all. They're very hyper. I mean, most rodents are very, very hyper. Ouch, there was a bite there. There we go. I'm going to put him down for a second here. My goodness, yeah. We're not going to take too many bites. One reason, a long time, that was a pet for us long time, we catch a squirrel and we have it. And I experienced several bites and so on. It's not nice. They have very long teeth that never stop growing.
Wow.
So a lot of times in captivity, with people giving them a poor diet, their teeth continue growing and they overlap and they damage the animal and also prevents them from feeding properly and they eventually die from starvation. So not a good thing to do that to the creature, especially if you really do not know how to take care of them. They must, put it this way, this animal, when it gets into a coconut plantation, bites through from the outside right through to the inside to get into the coconut. And I know about that oh so well, because many times I've had my eyes lined up on a lovely coconut, and when I eventually got it picked, on the back side of it was a nice, neat, perfectly round hole, and everything inside was gone.
Wow.
He had to eat first. The squirrel had to eat first.
Yep, but you know how hard what we call a coconut shell. The husk on the outside is okay, it's fibrous. But that shell, when you get that dry coconut, is quite hard.
Yeah.
And their teeth just literally gnaws through that and makes a perfectly round hole.
Well, we know squirrels, especially from television.
Cartoons,
and cartoon squirrels, bite through nutshells and these really hard things. That's what it eats.
What's their conservation status, Mr. Mead? Are they're vermin? What's their conservation status? Is it that they're listed as vermin? Is that true?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Sadly, they are.
Okay.
So people who have interest in which two people mainly target the squirrels. That's people who are doing coconut farming and people who are doing cocoa farming. So it was really with the rise of cocoa in Trinidad that these squirrels became listed as vermin species. With the decline of cocoa, less people have interest in terminating them. But they're still around, and that's why we will find safe species for them. They were here before us, and they should be here long after we're gone. So if you have a cocoa farm, I'm not going to be one bringing the animal to your farm to disrupt your livelihood and your eater food. However, for the savannah, where people would actually love seeing them, sitting on a bench and seeing them scurry around, the way, we watch the movies and they're like, oh my gosh, they're so cute. And then all of a sudden, ours here are not. No, ours here are just as nice. But one thing we must always, always, always remember, and I cannot emphasize this enough, do not feed wildlife, especially squirrel. So in raising this guy there, he's a bit scurrying and a little crazy in my hands because we're now taking a hands-off approach to dealing with him because he's coming to the phase where he's going to be ready to go back in the wild. And if we train him to be a handsome fella, he was going to go out there and bite somebody's hand. Because somebody's going to be like, oh my God, look at squirrel, give him some nuts, give him a this, give him a that. Or just put their hands open and they want to pet him and he will bite. And a bite from him is not fun. He will draw blood, he will create a serious injury. So please, people in the savannah, because I've seen people trying to chase them and stuff like that there, leave the wild animals alone and do not try to feed them. They know how to get their food. Do not try to feed them, because once they become habituated to human existence and offering food, they would believe that every human has a right to do that, or they would expect them to do that. And then the conflicts come in and problems come in when your little child gets bitten or you get bitten. Now the squirrels become the bad guys. So don't create a problem. And to understand this further, the situations there were, I think for the year, about 2 or 3 alligator attacks in Florida. So once I say alligator, it's not in Trinidad. We don't have alligators in Trinidad.
Yeah.
We have caiman, spectacled caiman, dwarf caiman, possibly the black caiman. Okay, but alligators in the U.S. get up to 19 feet quite easily. Massive animals. They're not usually aggressive, and we are very lucky in Trinidad that our caimans are not big. Because if the alligator had an attitude like a caiman, we could have been in some trouble. But alligators are very reclusive. They tend to want to back away very quickly. So too
Do
with
we
the caiman.
have, do we have crocodiles? Because now
No.
I'm wondering, what is the difference between an alligator, crocodile, and a caiman?
Okay. Well, they're all in the crocodilian family. So the crocodilian is the family that they are. Like Rodentia is the family that all the rodents fall in.
Yeah.
So all of the creatures like that, basically water-based, lizard-like, big, scaly, sharp teeth, powerful jaws, strong tail, those are all crocodilians. So people always ask the difference between an alligator and a crocodile.
Yeah.
So a crocodile will say, see you in a while, and while the alligator will say, see you later.
Okay, Mr.
Very
Mia.
funny, Mr. Mia.
Very funny, yeah.
But
Such dodging.
All right.
Such a
Well, really the
dodging.
difference is crocodiles, their teeth are more pronounced on the outside. When they close their jaws, you see lots of massive teeth on the outside, while the alligator's teeth are more rounded and pronounced on the inside. So when they close their mouth, you're not going to see all those jagged teeth on the outside. And the caiman is somewhere in between. His teeth are outside, his teeth are inside. He's just a Trini who just happy to be here. But the spectacle, the curve above their eyes is what gives them the name spectacled caiman that looks like he's wearing spectacles. So there's where the name comes from.
Oh, I have to go take a
But
look now.
The attacks in recent months on people, including 2 people who were killed and eaten by alligators in Florida, came after they were
Sorry
feeding
to cut you off again, Mr. Reed, but you could just correct me with this. Alligators also have a A-shaped like mouth or like a V-shaped mouth.
Yeah,
and crocodiles'
it's
mouth
much
is more
rounded.
round.
Yeah, much more rounded. While
Crocodile. The crocodile is more round and the alligator is more pointed.
Much more yes, the crocodiles are much more pointed, slender and pointed.
Okay.
And the alligator. But then you see that's a little shaky because when you have a massive crocodile like the Nile crocodile and you see the size of that head, that is rounded to you. Trust me. Okay? So don't get close enough to ask him. If you see teeth, it's a crocodile. If you're not seeing teeth, most likely it's an alligator. You see either of them, walk in the opposite direction. Don't even run. Walk backwards slowly, quickly, and then get out of there. Okay? You do not want to exhibit any prey-like behavior to startle the animal. You don't want the animal to get defensive. You just want safety. So these people, after feeding these animals and getting them quite massive, one was around a lake by a firehouse, I remember. This was actually last year. And a lady who would jog around the lake every year, she fell victim to the caiman. And then another one earlier in Florida, they were feeding it in one of their sort of collection ponds and fell victim because they were feeding and the animal had no apprehension, no fear about coming towards people. So when food wasn't available, you became food. So we create the problems ourselves, and of course, the solution to that is always now go out and kill as many as possible.
Yes.
Let's create a bigger problem for ourselves.
Yeah, fortunately it didn't happen because they are actually protected animals, very much protected animals in Florida. And I always laugh at the story of the guy. He was sitting outside watching his football game and his wife screaming because an alligator got into the house in Florida and she couldn't come out of the bathroom because the alligator was there. So he sprung into action and got a broom or mop and whooped that guy's butt and got him out of the house. And he made news as a local hero. The following day, the Department of Wildlife in Florida, Fish and Wildlife, went to his house and gave him a $200 citation ticket. The reason for that being, unless you are permitted, you are not allowed to engage and touch or even attack an alligator. So while you are Mr. Hero, pardon me?
They're the animals, they're protected, the alligators.
Very much so. They almost lost all the alligators because alligator skin and belt and bags and all that was so popular that they devastated the population of alligators in the Everglades and in the U.S. So they had to pass strict laws and open farms to breed them and try to conserve them, and put in place laws that said don't touch them. Unless you're a registered, licensed animal removal technician, leave it alone. So just as a warning to other people who might think about playing hero, they fined him $200, and he said, well, you know, it hurt his pocket a bit, but he understood the reasoning for it. The alligator actually was not threatening his wife. She was afraid she couldn't come out the bathroom, but they had more than enough time. She could have stayed right there. He could have called the authorities, and they would have come and done a proper and humane removal, so he didn't have to beat the animal with a broom or chase it or anything like that.
But we
So
know
they used him as an example.
We know the animal is all right, though?
Yeah, the animal is fine. You know, they're tough cookies. He was not malicious in his rescue efforts. Some people here in Trinidad with caimans, you know, we've arrived on the scene and it's a bloodbath, a total bloodbath. And it's not because the animal attacked anybody, but the human animal decided to attack the caiman with something known as a tree line or a cutlass or a machete, and chop the animal's tail off, sometimes the limbs off and so on. So there was literally blood pumping everywhere.
Wow.
And we've had times where we had no choice but to finish the process and terminate the animal. And there's one case there where we had to instantly terminate the animal. But the gentleman was so enthused, he looked at me and he said, so now can I eat him? And I looked him straight in the face and I said, this will cost you $2,000. You really want to eat it that badly? He said, no, take it now. Go on, don't worry about that. Because he don't set his sights on going and killing another one.
Wow.
You know? So this is what we encounter. This is why we do rescues. People think it's about the animal and if the people, you know, you come to save me from the animal. Yeah. No, I'm coming to save the animal from you. Because if we don't respond in a timely manner, the next person you call will not be so sympathetic, will not be so intelligent or understanding that the animal is just seeking a place for his life. And the next person will most likely come armed with a tree line or a cutlass and deal the animal serious blows. You know, sometimes I don't even mind if they're fast and efficient and they just, you know, deal with the animal. The butchering of the animals suffering and writhing and turning on the ground in pain, while you look at it and say, we're going to eat it just now. It just, if it's something that boils my blood, that is something that it does. In no part of the world, no religion, no culture, are you really allowed to create pain and suffering for anyone, or any creature. It's always a good death. You're fighting someone and the person has fallen in battle. The least you could do as a warrior, as a fighter, is give that person a good death.
Honorable, yeah.
Not leave the person there in pain and suffering, you know, a good death. Same thing with the animals. We try to do it wherever we do as quickly and as humanely as possible so as not to prolong the suffering.
So on this topic, can you weigh in on the, I think it was the lobster conversation, and people, they take like the live lobsters and they put them in boiling water. Is it better to, I think, crack the neck beforehand or put it in the boiling water?
The boiling water, and I have experience with this here because I've grew up in Tobago with family, would have caught lobsters and crabs and fish and all that sort of stuff there. And I did ask this question when I was about 5 years old because I heard the lobster boiling.
Yeah, but people were saying that, yeah.
Right. So people say, well, no, they're not making any noise. It's just the expansion and the pressure and the air leaving. And I said, okay. I remember putting my uncle's finger in hot water. And he, what happened? You stupid or what? And I said, well, I want to know the same thing.
Yeah.
Why you put the animal alive, whole in the water? The animal must have feelings. That's how it exists.
But people argue that as they hit that boiling water, they die.
No, that is nonsense. That is utter nonsense. Okay, if they want to take that and go to bed and sleep well, go right ahead. Okay, but our sensibilities as human beings, so that is not even possible. It is not possible.
They
have
suffer
they have
first.
sensory creatures. They have senses and nerves and so on that connects their brain that responds to it. That's how the animals are able to stay alive. If they feel pain or heat on this side, they move to the other side.
Just like
Okay,
humans.
same thing with you. Yeah, you put your hand on the stove. You know, you won't put your hand on a hot stove and say, "Oh gosh, is barbecue? Something cooked. Good, that's smelling." It's your hand burning, and you feel that almost immediately. Okay. We have sensory perception. This is how it works. And I'm dealing with animals all the time. And one of the biggest concerns we have is the mitigation of pain. These animals feel pain. That's why you have to apply pain medicine and all sort of techniques to minimize that pain and suffering. Imagine someone saying, okay, that toe bar, you're going to have to cut it off and go in the garden and bring one of those pruning shears and just cut off your toe.
Yeah.
Right? And I could tell you now, well, the pain gone, the toe gone. No, you're still going to feel it.
Yes.
And it applies the same way. So this utter horse-dropping nonsense about not feeling pain, come on. Let's go beyond that. Say the pain not going to bother you. The animal suffering is not going to bother you. But don't come with that nonsense and tell me they don't feel pain.
Yeah, they do.
Really.
They do.
A living creature like that.
There was a video about that circling over social media application TikTok. There was a lady who she posts cooking videos. I wouldn't say who, but she posts cooking videos, and she had a nice glass pot, very fancy. She put the lobsters in there, and she's doing a voiceover about, oh, they don't feel pain. But what you were hearing in the background was, as you were saying, the lobsters, what we would say, screaming. I remember listening to it, and I was like, that's not the air. That sounds different. That sounds like something or someone is in pain. Like, who are you hiding in your basement, lady? That was my initial reaction, and I went down the rabbit hole. I watched all the reaction videos, and people were like, yeah, that's happened to me before. That's them screaming. And they scream for a while.
Right. Whether it is air, screaming, cry for help, whatever it is, put all that aside.
Yeah.
It's simple logic. Living, sentient beings like that can and do have a sensory perception for pain. It is simple as that. If the lobster is walking along the ocean floor and something grabs a foot and rips it off, the animal is going to become aware of that. It's going to feel it and say, ouch, leg gone, go other way.
Yeah.
They feel pain.
Yeah.
Okay? And anybody who's fighting on this pain argument there is absolutely ignorant. Because the truth is now, we're discovering how even trees sense pain and injury and suffering and react.
Yeah, because they do.
And there was never any doubt about that. Nobody could have ever doubted that. Okay, I'm not saying that the trees are screaming or the trees are bleeding and all that sort of stuff. Okay, but they do react. Okay, and now they try to heal themselves or they try to shift away from the negative stimuli that their bodies, as it were, are experiencing. Okay, so even though their sensory perceptions are simple, it is still there. And now we're understanding that so much goes on beyond our eyesight underground and the connectivity, how a parent tree protects her babies around, how she directs nutrients to them. The world is a whole lot more connected than we could ever give credit for. And it starts off and it ends with people thinking we are so special. Okay, if we are so special and so wonderful, let us exist without anything else around. We need all of that.
We do.
Okay, we need the bio and the chemistry and the ecosystem underground for us to thrive above it. People are beginning to show now just connection with soil, walking barefoot, gardening. It releases that serotonin and makes your body so much happier. That's why people who do this stuff are happy and they hum away and sing away in their little garden, doing their little plants and stuff like that there. It is all beginning to come together now. Many of us understood the effect before, but didn't fully comprehend the science behind it.
Yeah.
That is not important. You know that you are happiest when you're out there gardening and seeing about your plants and molding them up and weed them. No one can deny that and take that away from you. The scientists can come now and figure out what is serotonin and oxytocin and dystonin and all the kind of tonins and stuff like that. But little old grandma who did that on a Sunday, on a Saturday, she knew how it made her feel. And sipping a little tea and watching her flowers and even talking to her plants. There is a connectivity, and when in time we disconnect, when we start to disconnect, we will have incidents more and more like what we had yesterday. And the sad problem is the people who are disconnecting fastest and in droves and in young people who need to reconnect after that COVID period. We are disconnected from ourselves, our souls, our empathy, our understanding, our humanity. And this is so much what this program is about. Yes, wildlife, but understanding the most humane thing we can do is care about others and other things that are not like ourselves. It shows that there is a heart within you, there is a care within you.
Even
and
if
that
you
is
may
what
not
we need more and more.
Even if
More
you
and
may not
more we need
understand.
that. Pardon me?
Yeah. I said, even if you may not understand, like I don't understand if the lobsters are screaming or not, or if why the squirrel shouldn't eat from my hand. I may not understand why, but if I know it's going to hurt them or possibly cause harm to them,
that should be enough.
That should be enough.
Yeah. I think what some people, you know, how some people feel about animals, because I've heard this before, you know, especially with dogs. They're like, oh, well, you know, dogs are not human. They don't think like we think. And we might feel as though, because of our own emotions, we might feel as though these dogs have a lot of different emotions as we do. But when in reality, that's just not true. Dogs don't feel emotion the same way that we feel emotion. And I think that's an argument that people can make, because some people say yes, they do. And then some people say no, they don't, because a dog is not a person. A dog is an it.
I mean, should that matter? In the first place, should it matter whether or not they can feel, they do feel, but should it matter?
So, dog is considered man's best friend, domesticated for upwards of 2,000 years. 2,000 years of genetics and breeding to get to this domestication point. And it's domesticated because of its affiliation and association with man. Right there, in your bed, by your feet, defending you. How can a dog defend you even when you haven't said a word? It's because there's a connection. There is a connection, and many people with their dogs communicate with them without even saying a word. The dog knows. Okay? Their senses are way beyond ours and way beyond what we may ever be able to understand. This is why now you have dogs as therapy animals going into hospital, bringing a little bit of joy and encouragement and healing power to children. Because when you feel happy and a little joy and expectancy for the next step, your body now responds. When you feel despair and desolation and and negativity towards the next moment, the next hour, the next day, your body responds to that also. So you bring in these dogs with these children and wards with cancer and so on like that there. The dogs can tell which children are sad and what they're going through. Dogs can even know, and even cats can detect cancer in people. We are only now beginning to scratch the superpower of these animals. And the reason why these in particular have that superpower is that because for 2,000 years, they have developed right there with us. So while we have lost our ability to connect, they have actually increased their ability to connect and communicate with us on a level that is non-verbal. And I believe that is actually the best part. I would never want a talking dog. Never. But just shut up for a moment. Look the animal in its eye. Let the animal look at you. See if it comes and sits next to you, sit at your feet, lay next to you. Just appreciate the moment of a creature beyond yourself, appreciating your presence and possibly loving you for just being there.
Yeah.
Even when you correct them and they come back to you, sometimes you're surprised at how fast they come back to you. But the dog says, okay, I probably did something wrong, you corrected me, but you are master and we have something going and we work together.
Yeah. So that almost brings me back to the conversation with the squirrel, the way in which, if it comes to you, okay, but most of it, would it come to you? Is it something the squirrel would do? Would it come to you naturally?
Well, if it was conditioned that way, it would. But if it comes to you and you are unable to provide that munchy morsel of food, then he may smell something on your hand and decide, okay, I'll eat this. And like I said, a bite from that ain't fun at all.
So stay away from them as best as possible.
Yet most likely they're not going to come up to you. If they come up to you, just back away.
Yeah.
But don't go and carry nuts in the savannah now and say, I go and look for savannah, I go and give him some peanuts. I hear he like planters and I hear he like sunshine snacks. And no. let the wild animals be wild. Because, okay, even if you do have a positive encounter with him, and that could be quite possible, he would now establish human positive connection food. Human positive connection food. And the next human that he goes up to may not be a good person.
Yeah.
And now you would have put that animal in danger by teaching him go to people, go for food.
So on that
That's
note,
why
is it right to feed stray dogs?
there is a whole lot of discussion around that. Nobody wants to see an animal suffer and die. Okay? I wouldn't want that at all. But if all your aim is just to feed them and leave them there without trying to find a solution to the very obvious problem. The problem is obvious. The animal is stray, it is homeless, it's destitute, it is in need of food, medical care, and so on. If your only solution is to give them a little morsel or scrape some rice on the sidewalk for them, then you're not helping much. It's the same thing when I had a discussion with a lady about going into, it was Tamarind Square, and feeding homeless people on a Sunday. I said, instead of feeding 40 people, why doesn't your organization target one potential person to get them out of there? I'm not saying put yourself at risk. I'm not expecting you to be professionals. Probably get a professional to go with you. Identify one person. If you're worried, identify a woman, because there are women there, young women. Figure out what their problem is and see if you can get that one person off the street. Rather than every Sunday just literally a tokens. They're tokens, you know. We've gotten accustomed to tokens because that now can be shown, you know, and people actually take pictures of them feeding people and stuff like that. Whereas the people who are doing the most for these people, one, they will never show name, face, pictures, or anything. They try to get people out of that situation. So that one person that they may have helped out of that situation may turn around now and pay it forward to try and help other people out of that situation. And that's how we solve problems. So feeding stray dogs is very empathetic, I understand that, but it does not solve the problem. You're just putting a little plaster on a big festering wound. It goes back to spaying and neutering and having dogs licensed and having responsible ownership and having serious fines for people who would take their dog that has been my family member for several years and then go and throw it in the bush or throw it on some street. That is the big problem right there. If we're not dealing with these issues, then you're going to continue throwing kibble and bit and rice on the sidewalk, and other people are going to keep walking along the sidewalk and stepping in dog poop and all sort of thing, or possibly even being attacked by a dog if she becomes aggressive. Let us deal with the true problem. So people who are really interested, they need to step it up to another level. And if you want to help out these shelters. You see, the shelters have done something. They are providing a shelter, means they get baths, they get housed properly, they're not fighting each other. Those dogs, they're not going to get run over by cars. And they make serious attempts to get these animals homed. Okay? So animal advocacy is a real thing. They can't be a best friend and do everything for you. And then as soon as it is not expedient or convenient, you toss them like some rag doll at the side of the road. That is so wrong. You're better off staying away from animals if that is going to be your attitude. And we experience that. People come and dump animals by our site all the time. You know, boxes of kittens, boxes of dogs, and so on. They're covered in maggots. Some with dead ones. They're trying to eat the dead one. All sorts of the most horrific things you can think of human beings doing. We are seeing it at the center. And then some other people just call, you know, I can't deal with this dog anymore. You want it? And then my out of that usually is find an organization on Facebook. Sometimes we have so many numbers, but we deal with wild animals. A dog or a cat isn't wild. They tell me, no, the cat is behavioral wild. And I said, ma'am, it's a domesticated animal. People are responsible for the well-being of that animal. It should never have to go feral. Okay? And sad as it may seem, a better outcome in many instances for so many of these animals is actually humane euthanasia. Instead of watching the dog, I've seen a dog, the lady sent me the video of the dog, the back leg broken and the bone sticking out, dry as a bone, literally, and the rest of the leg is hanging by a string because the maggots would have eaten away the flesh and the necrotic tissue, and it was just heart-wrenching. You know, I said, I'm trying to catch this dog and I can't. And I said, yeah, that's a people thing. We need, from top down, better approach to our animals, because it defines who we are. So the more nastiness and horribleness you see amongst people with the animals is the same thing reflected amongst each other. When we become a more caring, empathetic, compassionate society, we will all benefit. There'll be less crime, there'll be less horrors and these horrible things happening because we are now compassionate.
Yeah.
So let compassion be the new style. Let that be the in thing. Let that be the new TikTok. Let that be a TikTok challenge to be compassionate. Show some compassion for something other than a doubles or a burger or something. Let's be real. We have emotions and others do too. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Mead, for that. Bringing it all home there, because that's really the crux of the conversation. Having empathy, not just for your own self, but for others, animals,
Every
living creature. Even if you may not understand them, have empathy, have compassion for them.
And I think that the last thing that you said there can wrap us up this morning. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you.
Can we see Savannah before? We don't have to hold her.
All right. I will risk getting bitten again because now Savannah is awake and is saying, where my food, where my food.
What are you going to feed him this morning?
Well, I have some mango there. He's like the mango gone sour, so you're not interested in that so much. Here's Savannah again. Here we go. Savannah. Give on. No biting. Here we go. There we go.
Hi, Savannah.
Hi, Savannah. Bye, Savannah.
Look at the camera before you bite me. Look at the camera. I know the bite coming in. I know the bite is coming in.
Oh, gosh.
I am hungry now. It is going to come. You're going to give me something to eat, or I am going to chomp into you. I just hope you bite on my palm and not on my arm. Here you go. Say goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye,
goodbye there.
Bye.
All right.
Okay.
So when you guys see me in Savannah, say hi and bye from a distance.
Yes,
so
from a distance.
Watch and don't touch. We don't have to touch everything. All right? Just watch and touch and appreciate nature's beauty and understand
don't touch
that.
And appreciate.
He's doing his thing.
Another quote to wrap up the show.
All
watch,
gems.
don't touch, and appreciate. All right, Mr. Mead. Well, thanks so much again for joining us on your program this morning via Zoom. We see the commitment and we appreciate the commitment. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, ladies, for having me. You all have yourselves a wonderful day. All our friends and followers out there, stay safe, stay compassionate. Remember,
and stay
do unto
wise.
others as you would have them do unto you.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, guys, so that brings us to the end of another show.
As always, you can engage with us on WESN-CC, WESN TV on Facebook, or you have the number that pops up on your screen, 682-73, is it 96? Or do I have that wrong? 682, and you have the number on your screen there. Or as always, you can head to our website for information on how to contact us. Message us your suggestions, anything that you want to see us discuss, comments, everything. Message us, DM us, let us know that you're listening, and we will be happy to share your comments here on AM Prime.
Yeah, and so once again, we do want to thank Mr. Reed for joining us on the program. We also want to thank Mile and Burke behind the scenes, just for starting our morning with us, being here on time, making this happen, all the cameras, all the lights, everything.
And doing things behind the scenes during the show that you wouldn't even
all our videos for our updates, these are things that it helps us. It helps to make the show happen, so we appreciate it a lot. And yeah, so guys, stay safe, stay inspired,
stay wild,
stay informed, stay wild, and don't go too far because you have Sean Michael Small coming up on the hour of 8 o'clock with Talking Point. So we'll see you back here again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
Bye.
WESN.
Feeling drained? Struggling to keep up? It's time to take control of your wellness. On this episode of Wellness Unlocked, we're diving into the key nutrients your body needs for all-day energy and balance, with 100% or more of your daily essential vitamins, plus added chromium to support healthy blood sugar. This is complete wellness in a single soft gel. Join us as we uncover how small changes can make a big impact on your health. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and take the first step toward better health.
Do you need treatment for obesity or any related abdominal procedures? The community hospital now offers minimally invasive laparoscopic surgery done by an American-trained, board-certified surgeon with over 20 years' experience. Give us a call at 235-5479 for more information.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is